Welcome back to Witchin' and Winin'. I'm your resident witch, Miranda.
And I am your resident wino, Crystal.
I love that sound every single time she does. You guys know she does it like a live part every single time. Like it's not just an insert of sound.
Yeah, that's why that one time when I had pina colada instead, it just went plop.
Yeah, I think I do remember that one actually. I was like, it wasn't like the whole bloop, 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 bloop.
Mm-hmm.
Satisfying sound.
Every now and then I just don't feel like drinking wine, and I'll just pour water into a cup.
That works. I mean, you don't have to drink wine every time.
I don't. But I do have wine tonight.
Is it the good kind? I mean, what's good? What is good wine to you?
I think it's good. I think it's like $12 or maybe $15. I don't know. It's the Apothic Crush Soft Red Blend.
Yeah, I'm not a wine person. I only know, like, when I was a kid, my mom would let me take sips of Arbor Mist.
Ew.
Yeah, and then I got older, and then somebody introduced me to Stella Rosa Black, and that was just like grape juice.
Also, ew.
But I don't like wine. I don't really like alcohol in general. It doesn't taste good to me. Like, why? I haven't tasted any wine that tastes good.
That's what James said, and then we went to a winery, a little winery shop where they sold the wine. I don't remember if it was here in Arkansas or where. We travel so much. But it was just like a little local thing, local shop, and they had some great wines that he really enjoyed. Like, he actually bought some for himself. And you just got to find the right one. But with wine, especially if you are not, like, you know, into the bitter or the dry or the extra sweet, it's hard to find one that you'd like. But there are some out there.
Of all the ones I've tasted, like the Stella Rosa Black is my favorite because it tastes less like alcohol. But anyway, this episode is not about wine.
No.
It's actually about near-death experiences.
Why do they call it that? Because these people have actually died.
I mean, it didn't stick, I guess, so that's why I said near-death. I don't know.
Yeah, NDEs, near-death experiences. And
yes.
I guess maybe some of them did nearly die, but most or a lot of them actually do die on the table or, you know, wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
They come back, or if they're like brain dead, but not like body dead, you know.
Yeah.
It's really something. Like, you know, there's a TV show on Netflix. Have you seen that one that's about near-death experiences?
I don't think so.
It's called The OA. Oh. And they canceled it after like 2 seasons, which sucks because it was like...
That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what happened to it.
I know. Nothing happened to it because I don't even know who makes the decisions, but it was so good. Oh my gosh.
The show had a death experience.
It did, but it wasn't near death. It was just dead. It stuck. I mean, there's tons of like media and like shows and movies about this kind of thing. A few I could think of, like the Lazarus Effect. A couple of those, I think there's like a remake or two, or, you know, just people trying to like take a glimpse into what happens after death, you know?
Yeah.
And the people that we're going to be talking about tonight had experiences of like where they were nearly dead, or like, you know, in severe medical conditions where doctors are like, no, it won't happen, or they flatline in some manner or another, or whatever. Regardless, they either touch death and then they come back, and then they have a certain incredible experience. And so that's what this episode is about.
And all 3 of my stories, they're really good stories. They all come from the YouTube user Shaman Oaks, Shaman Oaks, and he has a lot of videos about this, and they're really good. So you should check him out.
I'm sure she'll post a link to his YouTube page on the Facebook channel if you guys are interested.
Yeah, all 3 of these videos will be posted on our Facebook page and in the description of this episode.
Nice. So let's get started. Who wants to go first?
You could go first, and we'll just go back and forth since we each have 3.
Perfect. All right. So, hi, Donkey.
Sorry, he has the zoomies. He's getting a little wild here, but all right.
That's okay. Puppies are puppies. All right. So first I want to talk about, just briefly mention what some scientists think, near-death experiences are. Obviously, there's some people who are thinking, oh, it's just a hallucination, lack of oxygen to the brain, you're seeing things, la-di-da-di-da. Mm-hmm. Evolutionary biologists think that the serenity that's experienced during a near-death experience might, lower the metabolic demands and conserve energy reserves, which, enhances a possibility of recovery in a situation that's potentially fatal. So that's one theory. Like I said, some people hallucinate this and that.
So it's like your body's coping mechanism.
Oh, okay. One of the stories that I have tonight is actually one of the most, respected cases of near-death experiences, because there's so much crazy evidence, and I'll get to it, once we get to it, but that his experience kind of counteracts it's just a hallucination, or it's this, or it's that, and
or it's
again,
the
you'll
drugs,
see why.
The drugs that you were given, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But you'll see why when I get to it. That will be the second story I talk about today. But the first one I want to talk about is about a woman named Anita Morjani. Now, I found this story and the one after this one when I was quickly researching, and I immediately found them, and I found that the University of Virginia actually studies near-death experiences, and they actively try to get participants in their studies that have had near-death experiences, and it's just something that I'm kind of surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised that a college actually does, but these first 2 stories do come from what I got from the University of Virginia, and then that led me to these people's actual sites, and kind of like a train here.
And we'll put those links up too.
Yeah. So Anita is definitely well known in the community. She even wrote a book that's called Dying to Be Me, where it talks about her near-death experience. So she had a medical illness that led to her near-death experience, and she had cancer, and it was doctors just enjoy the time you have, that sort of thing, right? So I'm going to kind of read a part from her book and what she has stated, and, I'll stop and talk about it and everything like that. This is basically her story, all right? So on the morning of February 2nd in 2006, so quite a while ago, she had already been suffering through cancer. She had already been living with cancer for 4 years, and her body had enough. And it went into a coma. And her husband rushed her to the hospital, and she said that the world around her started to appear surreal and dreamlike. And she expressed that she could feel herself slip further and further from her consciousness. So this is what she said, quote, "The moment I arrived and the oncologist saw me, her face visibly filled with shock. Your wife's heart may still be beating," she told Danny, which is her husband, "but she's not really there. It's too late to save her. Her organs have already shut down. Her tumors have grown to the size of lemons throughout her lymphatic system, from the base of her skull to below her abdomen. Her brain is filled with fluid, as are her lungs, and as you can see, her skin has developed lesions that are weeping with toxins. She won't even make it through the night." So she said, because that's what the doctor said to her.
It's incredible that she made it that far with how extreme that was.
I know, yeah. She said that she watched Danny's face fill with anguish, and she wanted to cry to him, it's okay, I'm okay. But again, this is her starting her near-death experience. She's out of her body right now. So she's wanting to be please don't worry, don't listen to the doctor, I feel great, I'm here, I'm not leaving. But obviously no words came out, and her husband couldn't hear her, right? She said that when she was in this near-death state, she was so very much aware of everything that was going on around her than she had ever been when she was like in a physical state, like when she was conscious. She wasn't using her 5 biological senses or anything, but she was taking everything in. She said that she could, like, in Twilight, how like when Bella awakens as a vampire and she's just like zooming into everything, that's what it kind of reminded me of, that she was just like absolutely seeing every single and taking every single detail around her.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, really?
I wasn't really into it. I think I tried. I just couldn't get into it.
Oh, well, I mean, that happens. When she wakes up as a vampire, she's looking all around and she's zooming in, she's hearing things, she's smelling things. It's just keen senses.
Okay.
Yeah. But she goes on to say that she felt no emotional attachment to her seemingly lifeless body as it was laying there in the hospital bed. She said that it felt like it wasn't hers. It looked way too small and insignificant to have contained what she had been experiencing right now.
That seems like a theme through all of these.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel an attachment to that body anymore. Like it's just a shell.
Yeah, I've read a couple of those too, where they're like, that was a thing, She said, quote, I felt free, liberated, and magnificent. Every pain, ache, sadness, and sorrow was gone. I felt completely unencumbered. I couldn't recall feelings this way before, not ever. End quote. So she was feeling that like euphoric sensation that a lot of people who've experienced near-death experience say that they do. Like it was just like it reminds me of like a nice warm hug, or like when you get into a nice bath that like covers your breasts and your knees all at once and you don't have to scrunch like in the fetal position. Well, she said that she felt all of the emotional attachments to her loved ones, but then her surroundings slowly like fell away. Again, here's another quote. She says, quote, what I can only describe as superb and glorious unconditional love surrounded me, wrapping me tight as I continued to let go. I didn't feel as though I had physically gone somewhere else. It was more as though I had awakened, perhaps finally being roused from a bad dream. My soul was finally realizing its true magnificence, and in doing so, it was expanding beyond my body and this physical world. And I was like, that's kind of like a sweet thing, because that's another, like, 2 of the 3 of stories that I'm going to be talking about tonight. Talk about, again, just everything is expanded beyond the physical world that they knew, and like this really feeling of like comfort and contentment and happiness, I guess. And that's really comforting too.
Yeah.
So she said that while she's in the coma, she became aware of the presence of her father, who had died 10 years prior. She's like, Dad, you're here. I can't believe it. She said she wasn't speaking those words, of course. It was merely like she was thinking them. And, well, it was more like a feeling of emotions behind the words, as there was no real other way of communicating in that realm other than through, like, emotions. She also recognized the essence of her best friend, who died of cancer 3 years prior to that. Well, not 3 years prior to the dad, but 3 years prior to, like, that moment. And it seemed that they both had been present with her long before she became aware of them, like, all throughout her illness. That's what she's saying. Like, when she was noticing them in this realm, she's like, oh, you guys have been with me this whole time, and it was kind of a warm feeling. She said that she was aware of other beings around her, but she didn't recognize them, but she knew they loved her very much, and she felt that intense feeling that they were protecting her. And that's, again, another thing. It's like, oh, all of that sounds so amazing. Like, oh, the love and the protection,
Yeah,
and especially during a scary time as that, like that's that's the time where you most need it. But she realized that those people she didn't recognize had been with her all along too, surrounding her with love, even when she wasn't aware of it. Whenever she tried later to explain the feeling, she said it was kind of hard to explain. It was indescribable. It's just like that feeling, and she was just doing her best that she can to explain them. Like, I could imagine that feeling could be unexplainable, but I think she did her best. When I was reading this, I'm like, wow, she is very eloquent. But she said, like, at that point, the universe made sense. She said she realized finally, why she had cancer, actually, and why the universe, why being, whatever. And she said that she was too caught up in wonder of that moment when she realized why she had cancer to dwell on the cause. She's just like, oh, I know why, but she didn't really care to, like, dissect it. But she was going to look at it closely later on. Of course, we'll get there. She said that she also realized why she had come into her life in the first place. Like, she knew what her true purpose was. And she said, quote, "Why do I suddenly understand all this? I wanted to know. Who's giving me this information? Is it God? Is it Krishna? Is it Buddha? Is it Jesus?" And then I was overwhelmed by the realization that God isn't a being, but a state of being. And I was now in that state of being, end quote. And that's another thing, too, where I've noticed that people who have talking about their near-death experiences, they were like, well, you know, God or Buddha or whatever, like, they'll name all these, like, deities. Like, those are too small of words to really describe what the being was, or the feeling was, or like the entity was.
See, mine were very detailed and, you know, say God or Jesus, whatever. But I'm wondering if it revealed to you in a way that you can understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Or like giving an ideal or some idea that you have in your mind, giving it a picture that you can understand. So it's not as frightening, maybe, or so. Yeah. I don't know.
It's just comfort. Exactly. Yes, for comfort and just knowing what it is. Yeah. But she said while in this state, she could see the whole complexity of her life. She can see everything and everybody she's touched. She saw what she described as threads representing her family, like her mom, her dad, her brother, everyone, even every person that had come to her life, whether it was in a positive way or a negative way. Like, she just saw it all at once, but it wasn't overwhelming. And she said, quote, "I began to understand that while I may have only been a thread, I was integral to the overall finished picture. Seeing this, I understood that I owed it to myself, to everyone I met, and to life itself to always be an expression of my own unique essence. Trying to be anything or anyone else didn't make me better. It just deprived me of my true self. It kept others from experiencing me for who I am, and it deprived me of interacting authentically with them."
I'm going to say something about that later on, but it's crazy that connects with one of mine really well.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, and that's another thing, too. Like, a lot of these people have the very similar feelings and similar stories and visions of what happens. So it's like these people are unrelated. They haven't been talking to each other, but, like, look at the similarities, you know? It's like, there's something else. So she's looking at the tapestry, she's explaining, and she's like, okay, I'm reading what's going on here. I can see my path. I can see that I was always so hard to myself, that sort of thing. She's just kind of like, at this point, reviewing her life and questioning it. Like, why is she always beating herself up? Why was she forsaking herself? How come she didn't stand up for herself and show the world her beauty? You know, that sort of thing. Yeah, because like she was saying that she always felt the need to seek approval, and you know, she was always just one of those like people pleasers, and she just didn't treat her own body and soul how it should be treated. And that was one of the big realizations that she had. So while she was still completely enveloped in like that sea of unconditional love and acceptance, she was able to actually see herself with the fresh eyes and see the beauty of herself. She saw that she said, quote, "I saw that I was a beautiful child of the universe." Oh, like, that's beautiful. I like that. Yeah. Beautiful child of the universe. Yeah.
Mine connects with that too. A lot of connections.
Yeah. She understood that the fact that she existed, just the fact that she existed, made her worthy of all the divine love rather than the judgment. Because you know how some people think they're not worthy of the happiness or comfort or love. Yeah. But she just had that feeling during her experience that she was worthy of that just because she existed, but nothing else. Like, nothing further. I mean, yes, everything else, but she didn't have to prove anything, you know? She didn't have to do something in order to get the love. She was just loved. Yeah. And she said that was a very surprising realization for her, because she always felt that she had to work at being lovable, like a lot of us do, you know? A lot of us feel unworthy of certain types of love, or because of the way we look, or how smart we are, whatever, like thinking that they're unworthy of it. And that hits close to home, because, you know, people with anxieties and stuff like that.
I think a lot of people, if not everyone, feels that at some point, even for a moment in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. So while she's going through all this too, like I said before, she was just kind of seeing the tapestry of her life, understanding the universe and understanding pretty much just everything, right? So this is her quote about the cancer. It says, quote, "I also understood that the cancer wasn't some punishment for anything I'd done wrong, nor was I experiencing negative karma as a result of any actions, as I previously believed. It was as though every moment held infinite possibilities, and where I was at that point in time was the culmination of every decision, every choice, and every thought of my entire life. My fears and my great power had manifested this disease." So to me, this is her saying like all of her negative, like everything negative or gray in her life kind of poisoned her body. Like that's how she felt, you know, is that it poisoned her.
I have a connection to that too. This is so weird.
I can't wait to hear it.
These stories mesh up really well.
Mm-hmm. She said prior to this point in her experiences, the doctors had already conducted tests on on her organs to see how well they're functioning, and their report had already been written. But she felt, even though she somehow knew that, she felt that in the realm that she was, it seemed as though the outcome to those tests and the outcome to the reports depended on a decision that she needed to make, whether she lived or whether she died. Yeah, she said that she felt that if she chose death, the test would indicate organ failure. If she chose to come back to life, they'd show that her organs were beginning to function again. But at that moment, she decided that she didn't want to return to life. When she made the decision, quote, "I then became conscious of my physical body dying, and I saw the doctor speaking with my family, explaining that it was death due to organ failure." And then she said, at the same time, her father had communicated this, quote, "This is as far as you can go, sweetheart. If you go any further, you cannot turn back." So it was like her, end quote. So it was like her father was telling her, I know you made the decision to die, but are you sure? Stop right here. This is your point of no return. Oh, I hear a kitty.
Yeah, that's Miss Cleo.
She then said that she became aware of a boundary around her. Though it wasn't a physical boundary, it was more of an energy type of boundary, like an invisible threshold. Mm-hmm. So she was like, yeah, that is a boundary that if I cross, there's not going to be any turning back for me. All her ties to the physical world would be permanently cut.
And my stories, it doesn't have to do with this, but a lot of the ones that I did read or watch a video about involved them being given a choice, whether they go back or not, or... Mm-hmm. or even go back in a different form. But there
always having that choice.
Yeah, there was choices given most of the time.
She said that before she stepped towards that realm for good, she became aware of a new level of truth. And I quote, "I discovered that since I had realized who I really was and understood the magnificence of my true self, if I chose to go back to life, my body would heal rapidly, not in months or weeks, but in days. If I chose to go back to my body, I knew that the doctors wouldn't be able to find a trace of cancer. That stunning revelation hit me like a bolt of lightning. I understood that merely by being who I truly am, I would heal both myself and others. I knew that was really the only purpose to life, to be ourselves, live our truths, and be the love that we are. As though to confirm my realization, I became aware of both my father and Sony, her friend, communicating with me. Now that you know the truth of who you really are, go back and live your life fearlessly." End quote.
That's wild, because she had it, once cancer hits your lymph nodes, it's your chance of living becomes very slim. She was just in such a state, and then organ failure, and then to miraculously, that is like a miracle, just
yes, it is,
heal within days. That's insane.
And especially how riddled her body was with cancer, and the fact that she went into a coma and then all of a sudden get better. That is a true, miracle for sure. I'm almost done with this story. She said around 4 p.m., her vision was very blurred when she opened her eyes. And this was about 30 hours after she entered the coma. So she was in a coma for a little less than 2 days. She said that she can barely see the outline of the figure that was standing over her. She knew it was her husband. And then she heard his voice being like, "She's back." And she said, quote, "Once I regained consciousness, my cancer began to heal rapidly. To the amazement of my doctors, I was free of countless tumors and cancer indicator within weeks. Since then, I've heeded the call to share this powerful story and divine lesson with the world. Love yourself fully. That's your purpose. That's what you're here to do."
That's so awesome.
Yeah. That was definitely like a heartwarming. Like this episode couldn't have come like soon enough because last night my son was having really bad death anxiety and was crying last night, and
From
we're
what?
trying to. He just doesn't want anything to end. He doesn't want to die. He hates that idea of not being with us forever, and
Yeah.
So we were telling him like my beliefs and what other people believe, what other cultures believe, and he's always like, "But what if it's not true?" And I'm like, "Well, what if it is?" And I'm just like pointing out every single culture since the beginning of time, everywhere around the world has a belief of an afterlife.
My mom actually messaged me randomly today and said, "Hey, you guys should talk on the podcast about near-death experiences." And I was like, "Well, we are tonight."
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah. So we must have picked a good one.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, it came at a good time because, like, I, too, have death anxiety, and I hate that idea that it's all gonna, like, we're gonna get old, and, I'm like, this sucks, like, ugh. So it's, like, hard trying to help my child when I have issues like that, too. But, like, I try to hold on to my own beliefs and everything, and then, what we talk about here on the podcast sometimes, like, gives me more comforting feelings,
Mm-hmm.
especially these ones. And let me tell you, it kind of reminds me of like whenever I was pregnant with him and I was afraid of giving birth, I would watch a ton of birth videos and it would help me not be afraid of giving birth anymore.
That would make me more afraid.
No, it didn't help me feel better about it. So it kind of reminds me of that, like help me feel better about death in general.
I'm not afraid of death really at all. I am afraid of how I get there. So there is a difference.
100-year-old granny, right?
In
your bed.
Yes. Okay, so my first story, like I said, all my stories are coming from YouTube, the user Shaman Oaks. And this video is titled "Man Dies and Learns We Have It Completely Backwards. Powerful NDE," which is near-death experience. It's about a man named Bill Letson. So in 1994, he was a Santa Barbara firefighter. He was the engineer, so he drove the fire engine, and he was on the paramedic fire engine. So during this time, there was a big flu epidemic, and all the emergency rooms were full. Being a paramedic, he was sent with the other paramedics into a patient's house, and this patient was severely ill. Bill leaned over the woman to place the oxygen mask on her, but just before he put it on her, the sick woman let out a big breath right in his face. Mm-hmm. And of course, he inhaled that. Mm-hmm. A couple days later, Bill was home sick, and after the third day of illness, he was exceptionally ill. He didn't even resemble himself, he said. He tried to take his pulse on his wrist, but he was unable to find his pulse. And being a paramedic, of course he knows how to find a pulse on a wrist.
Yeah, of course.
But he was unable to find his pulse, so he knew it was very weak and likely below 80. He called his sister, but his niece answered the phone. He tried to speak to her, but he couldn't speak above a whisper. The niece hung up and dialed 911. Firefighter paramedics showed up and got him hooked up to IVs for dehydration. He was taken to the hospital. The hospital was completely full due to the flu epidemic, but he was put into a room and was regularly given IV bags of fluids for the dehydration. And he was later told that he had been not including, what the paramedics gave him, but just in his hospital room, he had been given 11 liters of fluids.
What?
Yeah.
How? Where was all that going? That's insane.
A lot.
Yeah.
At one point, a nurse came in and said, "Everyone is getting these two drugs, one for pain and one for nausea." Well, he stood up and he told the nurse and his wife, he was like, "No, I don't need that. I think I'm fine to go home." And the nurse was like,
"He had 11 liters of
right.
IV fluid."
And the nurse told him, "Nope, this is the orders for everybody and the doctor hasn't seen you yet. You can't leave." Which I would have been like, "Screw you." I'm doing what I want to do.
But I mean, I say like I would agree, but I would be like, okay, doctor.
You would.
Whatever you say.
You're so nice. You don't speak up. The nurse pushed the meds into the IV, and Bill just keeled over. Immediately. The medical staff rushed in. They gave him Narcan, which...
That's supposed to, like, revive.
Yeah, it's given to opiate addicts during overdoses because it just, like, doesn't literally eat up, but it, eats up all the opiates in your body, gets rid of them. So they give him Narcan.
Like, shocks them.
Yeah, or whatever. But I'm assuming it's because of the pain meds that she had gave him. That's probably why they gave him the Narcan. Later on, he had found out that he was given the Narcan 3 times.
What?
Yeah.
He is, like, getting extra dosed.
Yeah.
Dang.
He was still not responding to it at all, so he was put into intensive care for the night. He said sometime during that night, he left his body. He found himself flying through a star-filled realm. There were magnificent orbs or stars all around him. He said he felt welcomed and everything a human wants to feel. He felt acceptance, love, and joy. All negative thoughts like anger, resentment, jealousy, etc., they were all gone. So all he
That's
felt...
That's gotta be nice.
Yes, all he felt was good, the most extreme of it. So he's flying through the star realm, feeling extreme happiness and peacefulness. So eventually, it became strange to him to think that he was this man. This man with emotions like anger and depression and all the experiences he had had. It was like thinking of another person. He wasn't this man anymore. In fact, when it came down to the thought of him returning to being this man in this body, he wanted nothing to do with it. He thought this man was a good person with good experiences, but still, he wasn't wanting it. He wanted nothing to do with returning to that man.
Like, he was separating from himself. Like, oh, that's not me. Like, I'm me. That man isn't. Yeah.
It's just a shell, So he's flying around the star realm when he suddenly landed. He was in a solid place that resembled a hospital. Here's where it gets interesting. So, how we were saying how they might be presented with God or Jesus or other types of gods or whatever they feel comfortable with. Well, this is different. So he's in a place that resembled a hospital. There were gurneys, hospital beds all around. In front of him stood these beings that were 3 short beings wearing hoods. He said these beings look just like the beings from the movie Communion. I've
never seen that movie.
I haven't either, but do you have your computer in front of you?
Yeah.
Google the movie Communion and see if it'll show you these funky little guys.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So he said they were exactly like that. They had squatty little bodies with big smiles on their faces. When Bill told this story to other people later on, and he mentioned these beings, he received multiple messages from people saying that they too have had experiences with these same beings, and that they do in fact look exactly like the characters from the movie Communion.
Wow.
So other people had near-death experiences and also saw these beings. Anyway, so these beings were standing in front of Bill. Bill said they were very sweet and kind beings. They asked him questions like, how was it? What did you learn? What can you tell us? Bill was very confused.
It's like they set him down there. That is interesting. Okay, sorry.
So he's supposed to learn something.
Uh-huh.
Well, one of them stepped forward, stared at him a moment, then turned to the other beings and said, he doesn't remember us. And they all just started giggling.
What?
Bill explained to them that he was confused and he kind of remembered them, but he needed a little time to think. One being that seemed to be the one in charge came forward. He was very happy looking with a big smile, wide eyes, and his eyebrows were up. He was tall and wispy, and he had a great laugh. The description that Bill gave of the being that was in charge sounded more human looking to me, but I'm not really sure. Because he never actually said that. Never actually said human looking or But this one was in charge.
Like humanoid.
Yes. But he said he didn't, a lot of this were emotions and feelings that he was getting from these beings that he felt were truth. Like he actually did know them. He just couldn't, completely remember everything. But he got the strong feeling that this boss being was the best boss anyone could ever have. He said this boss being approached him, and Bill became very emotional. He felt like he was going to break down in tears with immense love that was just pouring from this being.
There's that theme of love again.
Yes. He said the love was so strong that it was overwhelming. He got a strong feeling inside himself that this was a father-child type of relationship between himself and this being. The being had unconditional love for him. And Bill told the being that he didn't want to go back to his old life. He wanted to continue with this new journey. He asked the beings if they were going to give him a review of his old life. He said that they laughed at this, but the main guy was like, sure, let's do that. So the being asked him, where do you want to start? And Bill began telling the being about past jobs that he had done. One of them, he had mentioned that he regretted not taking a certain job that was offered to him on an island off the coast. His wife and he were going to live on the island by themselves and take care of the wildlife. It was very remote. It took over an hour by helicopter to reach the island.
Dude.
His wife wanted to live there badly, but he took a firefighting job instead. And Bill expressed how he wished he had taken the island job for his wife. Bill continued to talk about his life in review, but nobody was truly listening. Like, it wasn't important.
They're like, okay, this is just for you, dude. Like,
yeah, they were laughing at him at first, and they were like, where do you want to start? At some point, the head being stopped him and was like, okay, that's enough. It's time to go back. And Bill realized that his life wasn't over, that he was not staying here with these beings. It was almost as if he was the only one that didn't know that this whole time. Like, they all knew he was going back, but he thought that he was there to stay.
It was like, okay, it's time to check in.
Yes, and whenever he was told it's time to go back, the other three little short beings went off like they had some other job to do or something. Bill said he didn't want to go back, but the being said he had to go back because he still had stuff to do. Well, Bill started to go back. He fell back into darkness. He said this darkness was not a good place to be. It was lonely and dismal. Then he was back in his body. He woke up, and the nurse was stunned to see him awake. He told the nurse, I need to talk to you. But she was like, I need to get the doctor. And she said that they had all been really worried about him and not sure if he was going to wake up. And Bill said, okay, talk to the doctor, but first, let me ask you, what am I doing back here? He said, I was home. I made it out of here. He was actually kind of pissed.
Oh my gosh.
And she told him that he was in an unsteady place, but that he was back now, and he needed to wrap his head around the fact that he was back. Bill says that when it comes to life, it is up to us to create our vibration, which is kind of like what you were talking about with the negativity or the positivity. Mm-hmm. And it comes up in another one of my stories later. But he said that he learned that when it comes to life, it's up to us to create our vibration, the good or the bad of how we live. The place we go to after our death will be at the lowest vibration that we have created through our lives. He said we have it completely backwards when it comes to death. Our lives here are an illusion, a play that we all have roles in. And when we die, we go home. He said death is an upgrade. And so that was his story.
That always reminded me of, like, just the idea of, like, reincarnation, or, like, you know how there's the theories of, like, you make soul contracts before you're born with people you're going to be born with, essentially, like, in their lives and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it just seems like a bunch of aliens or something just playing VR.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and this character died, reloading.
And this guy's experience with these little weird-looking dudes makes it seem like, we are aliens here to learn stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either.
I mean, who
Definitely.
knows? Maybe God or whatever creator or creators are out there, maybe they are quote-unquote aliens.
Who knows? I mean, the universe is endless, right? So, there's more that we don't know than what we do know.
That sound is
Refill?
Yes, refill. What you got for us next?
All right, my next story is about Dr. Eben Alexander. So, Eben Alexander...
Okay, first of all, sorry, super interesting because he's a doctor.
Yes, he's actually a neurologist.
He's not just a neurologist even.
Yeah.
So
Hold on, let me make sure if it's a neurologist or neuroscientist. Hold on.
Either way, neuro.
Yeah.
Like, this dude
Neurosurgeon. Yeah, he's a neurosurgeon.
He's not just gonna take something and anything and run with it. Like, he's gonna have to really,
Yes.
He's gonna have to really believe in the fact that it happened.
Exactly. And he did talk about how, like, before all this happened to him, he would have been like, oh, no, you're just hallucinating. Or, oh, no, like, you're brain dead. Like, nothing's happening. Like, he was very sort of logical before he had his experience, But yeah, so he's a doctor. He's a neurosurgeon. And he also wrote a book called Proof of Heaven. So whenever he was talking about it, again, it seemed almost like, religion, but not religion. Like religion, but like all religions, not just Christianity. You know what I mean? But anyway, so Dr. Eben Alexander, he was another person who met like an illness that put him into a coma. So I'm going to just briefly talk about his prognosis and everything before I get into what his experience was. So, in 2008, he suddenly became very, very sick with bacterial meningitis.
Oh, I thought you were going to say meningitis.
I think it's like the same thing. Meningoencephalitis.
That sounds like something like meningitis and some kind of inflammation, like fluid inflammation.
Yeah. So it was like, obviously this is going on in your brain, right? This is not anywhere else. This is going on in your brain, your very important organ. So he said within 4 hours.
Sorry, me in science. I got to Google this because I'm super interested. It sounds like meningitis that causes brain swelling or something. Spell it for me.
MENINGITIS. ALITIS.
Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, I was sort of right. Menin blah, 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 is also known as herpes. I can't say it.
Meningoencephalitis. Yeah.
It's a medical condition that simultaneously resembles both meningitis, which is an infection or inflammation of the meninges, and encephalitis, which is an infection or inflammation of brain tissue.
Yeah, so he had it bad. That's the main point we want to express here. He had it bad in the brain. He said within 4 hours he was in a deep coma and spent the next 7 days comatose and on a ventilator. So, all right, I'm going to pretty much read a bunch of like medical jargon, but I'm going to try to sum it up, like dumb it down if I can. So essentially, if you get bacterial meningitis, there's a very quick decline in neurologic function. Excuse me.
It's actually very high death rate.
Mortality, yeah. It's 90% mortality rate. So his prospects for survival were not good at first, and then they severely worsened as the minutes ticked on. So he was at Lynchburg General Hospital in Virginia, and the doctors there were like, dude, he has spontaneous E. coli meningitis, which is less than 1 in 10 million annual incidences. Yeah, like he just got it bad, There was a bunch of other experts that came from University of Virginia, Duke, Massachusetts, everywhere trying to find the cause, and try to help him get better, But this dude, he failed to respond to triple antibiotics. He couldn't, like everything they were doing wasn't helping. So, yeah, his medical history of recent travel to Israel which is part of, like, he was doing global research for ultrasound surgery, but his doctors thought that could be a concern, the fact that he traveled to Israel. And around the time of his visit, the physicians at the Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center had reported the world's first well-documented case of spontaneous plasmid transfer of KPC gene from deadly ground. So yeah, so it's just this crazy, crazy coincidence, like 1 in 10 million chance he has a terrible issue going on in his brain.
And of course, it has to be a brain surgeon that this happens to.
Mm-hmm. He said that his neurological examinations, I'm just going to read it, what it says, okay? Quote, they were consistent with diffuse cortical damage plus extraocular motor dysfunction, which is brainstem damage. My CT scans revealed global neocortical involvement, and on the third day, my cerebral spinal fluid protein was 1,340 mg/dl. My CSF, okay, so pretty much it's a lot of medical thing, but what it comes down to is he was very ill, and he had a 3 to 10% chances of survival with no chance of recovery at all. So he could survive, but they were saying that he wouldn't recover. He would just be a potato.
So, or be so dysfunctional that his career's over.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, fortunately, though, on the 7th day of his coma, to everyone's surprise, he opened his eyes and he started to come back. And so he was obviously rapidly extubated, and everybody just couldn't get over what the fuck? How is this guy alive type of deal, Like, he had they were like, he was dying. He had 3 to 10% chance of survival, 0% chance of recovery. What the heck? So actually, this got the interest of a few doctors, and 3 doctors that had nothing to do with his case whatsoever. They were like, hey, can we do a medical review of your case and, study this? And he said, yeah, his case is because of the fact that his brain was just so dead during this whole process, but yet he had such a vivid near-death experience. That's why this case is very important, because of just his brain it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then he had this, like I said, vivid thing. So it's been studied, and there's been, and I even included in my notes a link to the, I should have, I think I did. I'll have to make sure I put it in there. I'll put it in there. A link to the study, the medical review. So if anybody's interested, it's not that long. I read it. It's like 4 pages long. And the last page is really just a list of references. So really 3 pages long. So it's very interesting. Now I'm going to get to what he said about his near-death experience. Okie dokie?
Okie dokie.
Okay. So, there was an interview done, and I watched this interview, and it was on YouTube, so I have the link up there too.
Awesome.
So if anybody wants to watch the whole interview yourselves, it's right up there. He describes the experience. He said that his near-death experience, when it started, he did not remember who he was. He had amnesia. He didn't remember Eben Alexander. He didn't remember his friends, his family, his wife, nothing about himself, nada. And he also noted at this point that there was intense damage to the part of his brain that would indicate any sort of brain functioning. Again, going back to his brain was just done, but he had this, incredible experience. He also wanted to note that his coma was absolutely not medically induced, and there was, again, barely any brain functioning. And again, I'm just going to keep on saying this is why this case is so important to the scientific community. Anyway, so he said he went through 3 different phases of the afterlife experience. He said the first phase is what he called the earthworm's eye view phase. And he said that if he were to have just gone through this phase and just been revived, he would have had a terrible near-death experience, because he said at this point, you're just an earthworm, you're scared, you're cold, you're, it's just nothing. Terrible. Ugh. And then he said that he was rescued by the earthworm's eye view by what he said was a slow spinning white light. He said this white light was also playing music, a beautiful musical melody that there's no way he can try to replicate. But he did say that he like memorized the music notes of that beautiful ball of light. And he said that if he was ever getting lost or like lost his bearing during his exploration of the afterlife, he would remember those notes that he heard from that ball of light, and it would help him find his way. Yeah. When he exited the earthworm view, he said he ascended into what he called a gateway valley. He described this place as being very Earth-like, with beautiful nature, flowers, streams. There was no decay. It was like the absolute epitome of a utopia on Earth. You know, just imagine like a grassy field with people. Like there's people, there's dogs, there's dogs, there's animals just playing and laughing, and you know, it was just so very, very happy.
Have you ever seen that movie, What Dreams May Come?
Yes, I have. That one's so sad.
With Robin Williams. It's probably my favorite movie ever, and that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, just
your
the beauty.
Your personal heaven is what is beautiful to you.
Exactly. He said that he knew this is where souls go to reunite with their higher selves. And they go there to reunite with the other souls that are like in your soul bubble. And he says this is where the souls would plan their next incarnations and make contracts. And they would even go through life review at this Gateway Valley, which was a very important part, the life review. The life review is where a soul would review their life events in a very detailed manner. He said that while he was in this gateway, he felt like he was just a speck of awareness on a butterfly wing. Just like la-di-da, like not exactly a soul there to like go through all the review and go through all of the meeting of their other souls. Like he was just like a spectator, you know? That's at least the impression that I got. He also said that he knew he had a spirit guardian that was his companion on that butterfly wing, and they were just happy. And he knew like who he was, but also didn't know who that companion was at the same time. Well, anyway, he looked above him, and there were like these angelic floating balls strolling above him, like a ton of them. And he knew that those angelic balls would provide him another portal to travel through. Excuse me. And he was just like kind of following the train. So he followed those angelic balls, and the portal led out to what he described as the core realm. He describes this realm as being a oneness of everything, a oneness. That like we are all just one. All of life's paradoxes and the conflicts and the issues that we have here on Earth, men versus women, racism, all that stuff, it's just resolved in this area. It's this oneness. He also said that at this point he knew that he was supposed to go back. But he was like, go back where? Because he still at this point doesn't remember himself. You know, he didn't go through, like, he didn't describe a life review. He just was like floating through, like having a tour, essentially.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he knew he was supposed to get back. So he went to this area that he saw a bunch of figures, and they were bowing their heads and walking off into the mist. And they were kind of like coming. It sounds creepy when I think about it, like when I'm trying to picture what he described, but he was like, it was just beautiful, you know, and like those balls of light that he was talking about earlier, he said that they were like singing, and it was just beautiful, you know, it was just like, anyway, so he saw about 6 people, 6 creatures or 6 faces before him. And 5 of those faces had been in his hospital room within the last 24 hours. And these people are what he calls vertical time anchors. Vertical time anchors. And again, he still doesn't know who he is. He's just kind of like, he's getting awareness of all this information. And then when he took a closer look at the 6th face was his son, actually, who was 10 years old at the time. Dr. Alexander did not recognize that this was his son during the experience because of the amnesia was still in full force. But once he like dissected his experience and really thought about it, he recognized that it was his son. So during this time in the real world, the doctors were giving him a 2 to 10% chance of survival and a 0% chance of recovery. And his 10-year-old son heard it and he ran down into his room, and he climbed up on his daddy, and he opened his eyeballs. And the Dr. Alexander said that when his eyeballs, like when you lifted up his eyeballs, they were like going off in different directions, like pointing right, one pointing left, and there was no response to, like, the pupils were not responding at all. So that's just a bad sign in general. Anyway, he said that his son was just saying, Dad, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it through it. This is okay. Come back. Dr. Alexander said that he didn't hear exactly those words as they were said, and he didn't see his son through his eyes, but he felt that connection to that sixth person, and he felt the connection to that feeling and to that energy. And then he absolutely knew he had to come back for that other soul, for his son. And at this point, he started to feel fear because he's like, okay, I need to come back for him. I need to make sure I come back. What if I don't come back? Like, he started to get scared, and he, so he worked really hard to come back. And then he said when he first woke up and he was in the hospital, he didn't recognize anybody that was there. Not his wife, his son, his mom. He didn't even recognize himself or language or nothing. Like, he was just like, what the heck? The only thing he remembered was the journey he was just on. He remembered everything that had just happened in his near-death experience. Over time, his memory did come back. He got his memory within 2 months, which is incredible. He got everything back within 2 months, yeah. And then they even did tests on his memory, and the test showed that his memory was more intact after the coma than it was before the coma. So, yeah.
That's crazy, because from my head injury, which was not even like it was a horrible head injury.
Yeah, that was a horrible head injury.
Hell of a lot of multiple different types of therapies and all kinds of stuff, but it is nothing close to what this guy went through, and it took me 7 years before I was even close to being back to normal with my memory.
Yeah. I don't know, you were saying, like, you have, like, even lingering things, from... Mm-hmm.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
It's like another miracle.
Exactly. That really is another miracle, and it's definitely been, like, studied and evaluated because he had this incredibly, again, like I said before, vivid experience, but his brain was just done for. It was mush, Wow. And there's medical proof of the brain activity and all the tests and stuff that were being done to him while he was in a coma. But then he comes out of the coma only remembering the experience he just had.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Was that whole story?
Yeah, that was the whole story.
Oh, okay. So this one, next, both crazy. Okay. So this one, like I said, is also from YouTube user Shaman Oaks, and this video is called Man Dies, Taught 10 Things You Must Do to Get into Heaven. And this man's name is Vincent Tolman. So this man was dead for over an hour.
What? That's crazy.
Which is, like, not possible.
Yeah.
So they think that he was dead for 30 to 45 minutes before his body was even found. And then he was found, his body was completely cold. Like, he didn't have warmth to his body at all. Like, that body's been sitting there a while, dead. He had no pulse. And he was, obviously, because of this, he was placed in a body bag. And so they hadn't found him 30 to 45 minutes before, and then he's placed in a body bag, and he's in that body bag for 45 minutes.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What? Yeah,
so
must have been, like, so low that his heart was barely beating, like, once a minute or something.
Oh, no, he's freaking dead. Like, they even said, like, he was dead. He was found with no heat in his body. It was cold. Mm-hmm. Have you ever touched a dead body?
Yeah.
There's, like, no heat to it. It's just, it's just cold. I don't know. It's hard to, it's not just cold. Anyways. So what happened was this. He was a young amateur bodybuilder. He was taking a new supplement that ended up being toxic. A lot of those types of supplements are so bad for you. And this was a new one, so they didn't really know much about it. But it ended up being toxic, and he ended up passing out in a public bathroom at a restaurant. He began vomiting while he was passed out, and he ended up aspirating on the vomit, and he died. So out of nowhere, Vincent was sitting in a very comfortable chair in a movie theater, an empty movie theater. He was watching a movie that showed a dead body on the screen. It was him, but at that time, he didn't recognize the body. He didn't realize it was himself that he was watching. It didn't feel like it was himself. As far as he knew, he was just watching a movie. During this movie, he could hear everyone's thought. So this death occurred at a restaurant, and he was able to hear the thoughts of everyone in that restaurant during this movie.
That must have been overwhelming right there.
Yeah. So all the patrons and even the chef's thought, like he's watching this movie and he can hear all of their thoughts. Now, Vincent had a background in TV and film, and like you and I have been saying, like maybe they're shown something that they're comfortable with to make it easier to transition.
Yeah.
Well, he's comfortable with TV and film, so he's seeing this on the big screen. Yeah. He watched the body be discovered and bagged and placed in the back of an ambulance. In the ambulance, Vincent watched as a rookie medic berated himself for not doing everything he possibly could in this situation and for not speaking up to the more experienced medic. Because, you know, he wanted to be like, well, let's try and save him. But they're like, no, dude bro's been dead for a long time, you know? Mm-hmm. There's no saving him. Well, as the rookie medic berated himself, Vincent saw a glowing light appear in the medic's chest near his heart. He said it was bright like a light bulb. Out of nowhere, a really strong voice said to the medic, "This one's not dead." The medic paused his thoughts, like, because he's listening to this medic's thoughts. Mm-hmm. And then he paused his thoughts, like he heard the voice too. Vincent then heard the medic tell himself that was just your imagination. You know, you didn't really hear that. Then Vincent saw the light grow much brighter, and the voice became even more powerful and said again, "This one's not dead." The medic then listened to that inner voice, or whatever it was, and broke protocol. He unzipped the body bag, unstrapped all of the straps, and he felt for a pulse, but he didn't get one. He was dead. He did, however, feel around the inside of the femur, the leg, and he felt a spark, is how he described it. And that spark was enough for this medic to try to revive the body. He began to try to resuscitate the body. Vincent watched as the body was then transported from the ambulance into the hospital. That was the first reckoning Vincent had that the body he was watching was his own. And this is because as the hospital staff strapped the body to the gurney, because, you know, when you're transporting a body, you strap them down to the bed so they don't just roll off. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as the hospital staff strapped the body to the gurney, Vincent, sitting in the movie theater, he felt his own arms being strapped down, and he was like, I can't move my arms. What's going on? And he realized he was watching himself on the screen. And he looked down at the chair he was sitting in and saw the body's arm, his arm from the movie, strapped down to the seat. This realization had Vincent spiraling into a negative space. So, of course, you know, you're like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. I'm dead, of course, and he's spiraling into these negative thoughts. On the screen, he began to see everything that he had ever done wrong. He saw it from his point of view and from the point of view of those he had wronged, and it pumped him full of fear and self-doubt. Then a warmth came from behind him and began to warm his back. He began to feel how important he was and how loved he was. He saw that there was nothing he could do to make himself more important or less important. And I think you had said that about your first person. So nothing he could do would make him any more important or less important. Then he began seeing all the good he had done. There was a lot of good he had done that he had forgotten, and there were times he had done good without even realizing it. He saw that there was far more good than bad. He saw that he was worth salvaging. He realized that this love that he was feeling was coming from behind him. He turned and saw an amazing man that he thought was God. The man told him no, he was not God. He was his guide to help him go wherever he wanted to go. He helped Vincent understand that he could go back to his body or go anywhere in the universe. Vincent felt this profound love coming from this man. He knew he needed and wanted this love that he didn't have in his life. Vincent asked the guide where that feeling of love, that energy was coming from, and the guide told him it was from home. Vincent said he wanted to go home where that energy was coming from, since Vincent felt the energy of love was healing him, healing him from an entire life of abuse and trauma.
Okay.
Vincent wanted to go toward that love energy because to Vincent, that place was heaven. And he said to him that was heaven. So call it what you want to call it. You know, maybe whatever you call one thing is what somebody else calls heaven. It still might be the same place. You're just calling it different things.
Exactly.
Well, Vincent's guide introduced himself as Drake. Drake helped Vincent understand that the most important thing in life, here we go, is to find who you are, your authentic self.
Wow, it really is like that first one.
Yes, he said this is the most important thing in life. He said you need to find out who you authentically were before you can start the journey towards heaven or home. Drake helped Vincent see all the different versions of himself. The self he was when around his parents, who he was around his friends, at work, etc. There were all these different versions of himself, and he helped Vincent understand that he could stitch together a core of who he was between all of these situations. And that was who he really was, the most important self, the authentic self. And this authentic self was the most important because it could grow. The other aspects of who he were or who he was were false aspects that could not grow. But his authentic self could grow and develop and get it ready for heaven. Drake said, his guide Drake, he had told him that there is a divine purpose in our lifetime. Our lives are classrooms. And I like this next part because he said, life is not a courtroom. He said it's never been a courtroom, so you're not here to be judged by others. No matter what, he said, no matter what religions tell you, life has always been a classroom. It can be referred to as Earth School, is what he said, which makes me think that there are other schools out there, you know, like for other life forms or whatever. But he said it's the hardest school. It is full of resistance and hardship, but it is also the school that you gain the most from because of all of those hardships. You learn the most from it. So to get into heaven, you have to, 1, find your authentic self, 2, learn lessons in Earth School, and now there is number 3, which is love. And Vincent was surprised that love was not the very first most important thing ever. But Drake told him that we can't feel or share love until we can be our authentic selves and understand who we are and why we are here. Only then can you love yourself and someone else. Drake told him,
wow.
Yeah, deep.
It is deep.
I mean, this guy was dead for a long time, so he's got all this information. Drake told Vincent that our Creator loves us so much that he gave us an inner voice, also known as, some people say, the spirit or intuition or gut instinct. And that brings us to the 4th thing we need to get into heaven, which is to listen to that inner voice and try to strengthen it. Which brings us to number 5. One way to strengthen your inner voice is to understand your relationship to technology. So that's number 5. Understand your relationship to technology.
That's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what that means.
But if you really think about it, way back in the day, there was technology that we just don't understand. Like, we don't really completely understand how the pyramids were built. And now, supposedly, they were used for electricity back then, which my mom brought to my attention today, and I want to talk about that in a future episode, so I'm not going to go into that.
Okay.
But there was even technology way back in the day, you know? So, and technology doesn't necessarily mean gadgets, like electronic gadgets, you know? So, anyway.
I mean, technically, like a spoon is a technology.
Exactly. It's a tool.
A tool, yeah.
So, he was told that technology itself will either lift you up or tear you down. When it is lifting you up, you know it. You know it is lifting you. If you don't know whether it is lifting you up or tearing you down, then it is definitely tearing you down. Technology is an energy used for great, good, or bad. It is up to us to decide how it is used. It frames who we are, the way we use it. He says that we need to set an intention and put good stuff into it. That's when it helps transform us into better people with lives that we want to have. You know, instead of using it bad, like people that are out there trolling people or completely bashing people online until they take their own lives, you know? Like,
or even like those people who like over filter themselves.
yes.
You know, like that's not doing it in a positive way.
That's a great point. That is tearing yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
You are not being authentically you. But that brings us to number 6, which I guess is not really connected to number 5. But anyways, Drake helped Vincent understand that the midway point to heaven, on your journey to heaven, the midway point lies prejudice, like a fence you cannot cross with prejudice. You cannot pass this point with prejudice in your heart. Vincent told Drake that he had no prejudice. He was like, heck, I've got 2 Korean sisters, for goodness sake. I just have no prejudice for anybody. Well, Drake lovingly put his hand on Vincent's shoulder and said he was glad that Vincent had no prejudice. But how do you feel about prejudiced people? And Vincent had a lot to say about prejudiced people. He hated prejudiced people. He went on and on about how horrible they were. Drake showed Vincent that by hating prejudiced people, he was joining the prejudiced team. Drake showed Vincent the life of one of the most prejudiced people Vincent knew. So he was like, okay, you know this person. They're the most prejudiced person that you know. I'm going to show you what it's like to be in their life. So he showed Vincent what it was like to walk the path of that prejudiced person. And of course, after this experience, Vincent still did not agree with the person's prejudiced views, but he was able to understand why they were the way they were, how they became that way. So he was being empathetic towards them. Being empathetic doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with their beliefs. It just means you can understand how they became what and who they are.
Yeah.
You can feel it more connected. Anyways.
This is kind of reminding me of Orson Scott's card, Speaker for the Dead, where the character would go and, like, for people who died, he would go and just find out the truth. He was the truth teller, essentially, of who these people were. And how, like, he pretty much said that if you know someone completely, you can't hate them. Because, hold on, let me look up the quote, because I think the quote will resonate with you with your story that you just said.
And you said it's from who?
Speaker for the Dead.
Okay.
Because he was a speaker for the dead, yeah. And
like from way back in the day or something?
Yeah, as Orson Scott Card. So it says, no one's life is nothing, even the most evil of men and women, if you understand their hearts had some generous act that redeems them, at least a little, from their sins. When you really know somebody, you can't hate them. Or maybe it's just that you can't really know them until you stop hating them.
I love that. It's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest of this number 6 part is connected to one of your stories, really. So he understood how they became that way. Well, Vincent also now understood that the key to helping this prejudiced person out of their prejudice is somebody that doesn't fit the stereotype. So basically, the key to helping this prejudiced person is to find someone that they are prejudiced against, but somebody that doesn't fit the stereotype of their views. And that person will show them love. So someone like, did you understand that? Did I explain that right?
Yeah, I think I understand it for sure.
So this person that they are prejudiced against, they need to show love to that person that is prejudiced. Don't show them hate because they're prejudiced. Show them that they are wrong through the love that you share with them.
Yeah, like through your actions. Prove them wrong.
Right.
By
and that can
showing the truth.
Right. And to show them kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And that can pull them out of it and save them. And he said there is power in creation. And the power of it is where that power comes from is our thought. So if you can control your thought, you can control your creation. And I know you don't understand what that means right off the bat, but you will understand it. It's kind of like you were saying, the positive and negative thought.
Mm-hmm.
So Anyways, that takes us to number 7, which is controlling your thoughts. No matter what life throws at us, if you can control your thoughts, you can control your outcomes. So the next step to progress is to understand our thoughts can create. The way you are thinking is creating a certain type of situation. So it's important to avoid negative influences.
Oh yeah, it's kind of even like that simple idea where it's like surround yourself with people you want to be like, or in general, like, okay, you start to reflect your friends, or you start to reflect the people you're around,
Birds
like
of
all
a
the
feather
energy.
flock together.
Yes.
Because if you're around people that are constantly negative about everything and don't even try to be positive at all, it's going to start to affect your thinking.
100%.
Whenever you start thinking negatively about everything, the outcomes in your life start becoming negative.
Manifestation, baby.
That's the freaking word I've been trying to think of this whole time I was doing research. Manifestation. Yeah, girl. And that is number 8. Number 8 is avoid negative influences. If you have negative influences influencing your thoughts, you start to think more negatively. Negative influences include things like negative entertainment, news, friends, even apps on your phone that increase drama or reactivity to each other. So, like TikTok. That definitely increases drama, I would say.
Yeah. It also depends on what side of TikTok you're on, because the algorithm is pretty on fleek, because I have a lot of positive stuff on my feed.
Good.
Yeah. And a lot of it, too, is funny videos of babies and animals.
Oh, yeah. I love the animal videos.
Yeah.
As you avoid these negative influences, you begin to understand number 9, which is evil has a purpose. There's a reason why we have evil in the world, is what he's saying, what Drake is telling him. So, without bad choices, there are no good choices. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
So it's important that there are bad choices so that we are able to make good choices. If all of the bad choices in the world were taken away, like they weren't even a possibility, if all evil in the world was removed, there would be nothing to learn. And we are here to learn. Like, again, our lives are a classroom. We're here to learn. And the last thing that Vincent says he learned from Drake is number 10, and just like one of your stories, number 10 is we are all one. We are not all one being. We are one in unity, purpose, light, and love. So to harm another is to harm yourself. There's no winning in a war. Everyone loses in a war. And after Vincent learned this last lesson with Drake, Vincent touched down into heaven, which he says is a very real place. He saw, and you talked about this, like whenever I said, have you ever watched What Dreams May Come?
Mm-hmm.
This is like that. So he saw the most beautiful hills and mountains, and Vincent said that he could even feel the immense love for him from our Creator through everything, even the grass. He could feel the perceptions and love coming from each blade of grass. Like, there's that much love. You feel it in everything. And you don't just feel love, you feel it towards you. Like, it all loves you. Like, you feel loved and wanted. As he touched down in heaven, he felt this connection. He felt at home, the energy exchange, the healing that was happening. And Vincent's favorite part of this experience was the water. So he had approached a little stream, and the water, I assume telepathically, asked Vincent if he wanted the water on him. And of course he was like, yeah, I want the water on me. I want to feel it. So the water started at Vincent's toes and it covered his body. And he didn't feel cold and wet. He just felt that everywhere the water touched, he felt whole again. Like throughout life with all the trauma and the abuse, he was broken into all these pieces. And at this point, wherever the water was touching him, he felt whole again. Like he was healing. He felt free of defect from the life he had. So what he was saying is that all the defects that he felt in life that he had that made him not good enough in one way or another. He felt free of them.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's great for them.
Drake then came up to Vincent, put his arm around him, and said, Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. Drake brought Vincent into a hug, a really tight hug, and Vincent says that the hug that he felt in heaven from Drake, he said it's akin to having communion in church or having sex or other types of connections that you have in real life where you feel connected to someone else's soul. You know what I mean? Like making these connections with each other's souls, like a deep, deep level of connection in life. He says the hug, just getting a hug in heaven, was like having those really deep connections. But it's more beautiful than anything you could experience on earth. And Vincent began to hear a prayer during this hug. Vincent then saw from an above viewpoint his brother standing over his body and saying this prayer. And he could feel the love his brother had for him. He felt it so powerfully, and that love he felt began to pull him back to himself, to his body. And just as his brother said, Amen, Vincent woke up in his body. He woke up at 1:11 in the morning and he just got up, yanked all the wires off of himself. And he got out of that hospital as quickly as possible. I think he said, if I remember correctly, it was like 6 hours later, because he was like, nope, ready to go home. And so they started what is it called? The
discharge paperwork?
Discharge. I was like, dispatch. That's not the word. Discharge. Yeah, they started the discharge process, and he got out of there as quick as he could. Well, after this near-death or after-death experience, Vincent became extremely depressed. He did not want to be on this earthly plane. He wanted to go back.
That kind of no. Yeah. That's depressing.
He kept hearing on a daily basis, he would hear Drake's voice telling him, Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. So Vincent stuck it out until he met his wife, Andrea, who was his saving grace.
Aww.
Well, later in life, I think this is really interesting. And of course, maybe he had heard the story younger and just forgot all about it, and then his mind made up all this stuff. But I like to think it really happened. Anyways, later in life, Vincent was at a history presentation in a little town in Wyoming. An old black and white photo came up on the screen, and the photo was of a man named Charles. But Vincent was 100% sure that this photo was of his guide, Drake. Like it was him. It was Drake. Well, Vincent recognized the last name of this Charles dude, and it was the same last name as Vincent's grandmother's last name. So he was like, maybe Granny knows something about him. You know, they have the same last name.
Yeah.
And obviously this guy and I have some type of connection. So he went to his grandmother and asked if she knew who this Charles guy was. And her exact response was, oh, you mean great-grandpa Drake. He's famous in our family. And that sealed the deal for Vincent, that this was a real experience for him. Now, there's one part of Vincent's experience that he does not usually share about, but he did in this video, and it's really cool. He says he saw the future of our society. He says it is very different from what we are now. And he says that no matter what the news is telling us or what anyone else is saying negatively about our future, he wants us to know that our future as a society is, quote, absolutely freaking amazing, end quote.
Well, that's good news to hear, especially right now.
And gosh. Okay, so I'm going to go on and tell you the rest of this. Let me just say it, and then I'll tell you what irks me. Anyways, he said, not society and humanity in general is going to be absolutely freaking amazing, but the society and humanity that choose the light and choose not to live in a cage of fear. Now, I want you to recognize he did not say choose religion and worship and blah, blah, blah. He's just talking about choosing to be a good person and not to live in a cage of fear of others, prejudice, and such. He said that we will start to build special cities of light in special location, and that this will happen in his lifetime so soon. He said the scary part is, in the process of getting ready for those cities of light, for most of the world, there's going to be a big separation between fear and love. Most of the earth will choose fear. Okay, what irks me is Trump running for president. He said he's going to build, I can't remember what he called them, something cities.
Freedom cities, yeah, that's what it said.
Freedom cities, yes. Okay.
Yep. And flying cars. Okay.
I don't want anybody out there. I mean, you're going to do what you're going to do. Please just use your brains. Do not connect what this dude is saying to that, because don't be like, oh, it must be from God. Trump was chosen. Blah, he's building these cities that this man was told about by God. No, stop it. Trump, yeah, I don't care if we lose listeners, whatever. Especially where I live. Everyone's like, ooh, Trump. No. To me, Trump is like a little baby Hitler. He's nothing he plans is going to end up good. Any kind of good he sees in the future is for his rich white males. Anyways, whatever.
Rich white straight males.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Anyways, that's what irks me about this. I don't want that to be connected to him because it's completely different. This man is talking about something different. Trump is talking about segregating people, like these are the good people we're going to put in these cities, or whatever the fuck he's planning. I don't even fucking know.
Well, they could all live there in his cities, then.
Or maybe
Leave us alone.
Maybe he's saying freedom cities, let's put all the people that are less than in these cities. I don't fucking know, but his plan is to separate people, not bring them together through love. It's different. Yeah. It's different than what this person is saying. Anyways.
Maybe what the person is saying, you know how he's like, oh, it's going to be within his lifetime, a city of light. And like maybe something to consider, because like if people are just sitting here thinking about like a literal, like ethereal city of light, or where people are with their higher selves or la-di-da, maybe it's not exactly like that. Maybe it's just like where certain people who are meant to will be called to move to that city. And on the outside, it looks the same as every other city. But like I think it'll
for some reason look like other cities.
Yeah.
It's just
if you're called to move. Yeah. And it's not going to be even like advertised, you know, it's just going to be like people are called to move there.
They are.
You know, be like, wake up one morning, like, you know what, I think I want to move to Arkansas. Or I don't know. Like out of nowhere. Look at this city. Yeah. I heard about this city. It's this and that. And
where
blah, blah,
everyone
blah,
accepts each other for who they truly are. Just
exactly.
Live and let live and be happy and show love. But
and harm none.
The end of this, the very end of the story is, Vincent said, it is Vincent that I'm on right now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Vincent said that, okay, so Vincent says, no matter what, life ends in death, and Vincent says that the best gift is the gift of death. And he is very excited to go back one day. He's not saying like, oh, I'm gonna end it so I can go back. No. He knows we're here to learn.
He doesn't have the fear.
And he's gonna be here until he learns what he needs to learn, and he naturally goes that way.
And he's not afraid, and that's a big deal for some people, not being afraid.
Right. He's saying don't be afraid of it, because it's like the other story said, it's an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
But Vincent has a book that he wrote that you can purchase to learn more about his experience and insights, and it is called The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back by Vincent Tolman and Lynn Taylor.
So far, 3 of our people have written books. So we have that one that Vincent wrote, and then we have the one that Dr. Alexander wrote as well, and his was a Proof of Heaven, and then we have the one that Anita wrote, which was, let me go all the way back up.
I liked her title.
Dying to Be Me.
Yes. What a great title. That's so clever and witty.
Yeah, so 3 books you guys could check out if you're really interested. Have lots of extra information that we just couldn't cover here.
We still have 2 more stories.
Mm-hmm. My next story is not
going to be a long episode.
Yeah. My next story is not nearly as long. It's pretty short. And it's not as, happy and love-filled as the other ones we've been talking about. I wanted it to include one that was like different, I guess you can say. Just so people would be like, yeah, there's all these different there's all kinds of different near-death experiences, and your experience is your experience, and it's valid.
Yes.
Doesn't make you any less special because you didn't get to see the shining balls and the Elysian fields of grassiness.
This is the grass that loves you.
Yeah. The next person I want to talk about her name is Deborah Plum, and she has had 2 near-death experiences in her life.
Oh, damn.
Her first experience, and honestly, both of them they're not good. They're not happy like the other ones we're talking about, but they're. Her first experience was right after she went into labor with her first child. She went to the hospital with stroke-level blood pressure, low platelets, liver dysfunction, and seizure activity. She remembers hearing someone yell that they need to get her to the operating room ASAP. Then she found herself floating in the corner of the operating room, just looking down at her body and all the commotion that was happening as the doctors and nurses tried to revive her and save her and her son. She said that she felt no emotion, oddly, and she was just like, oh, this is a thing that I'm viewing right now. Why? Her son was delivered via C-section, and he had to spend some time in the ICU, or the NICU, for babies, obviously. But she was kept in a coma for 3 days to help her body heal, and she was able to, fortunately. Her near-death experience didn't really have, like I said, a journey or anything like this. It was literally just her kind of floating around, seeing what was going on. And the only person that she told about her experience was her husband, Bruce. So it was like, I'm wondering if this was kind of like the phase of the after-death experience that, Dr. Alexander said that is the earthworm's eye view or something like that, where it's just like,
She hasn't really moved past that yet.
Yeah. But she recovered. Great. So that was her first one. Her second near-death experience it happened on Valentine's Day, and her husband were supposed to go meet another couple at a restaurant, and they were running late. She pulled up at this notorious stoplight that is obviously, just dreadful if you hit a red light. Because those stoplights, those intersections where there's probably a couple of them really close, and if you happen to hit a red light on one, you'll hit a red light on all of them, and then you're stuck in traffic for a long time. Yeah.
Especially California.
I know. But she was so relieved because she got lucky when she ran into the stoplight because it was green. So she's like, okay, great, we're running late, so this is perfect. But she would never make it to the Valentine's Day dinner because her car was hit by an SUV. The driver was unlicensed. The car was unregistered.
Was her husband in the car with her?
Yeah, her husband was in the car with her, and he was fine. He had injuries,
Yeah.
So her husband was injured, and he looked at her and saw that she was, slumped over and unconscious. So obviously he was freaking out, and he checked her vitals, and, he worked in the medical field, so he was like, okay, I know what to do to kind of, do a quick check. But he realized that he couldn't feel a heartbeat or see any breathing, and this is what she has to say about,
freaking Valentine's Day.
I know, of all days, yeah. She said, quote, "Immediately after the crash, I had no awareness of myself as a unique entity, no cognition of having a distinct identity either. Instead, I felt utterly and profoundly peaceful in a way that I had never sensed. To my core, I felt safe and at home." So she did have that feeling of the safeness and the being at home, but she didn't see didn't go on that journey. She didn't see all that stuff going on. She had just started with that feeling of safety. So she said, I'll continue. "I seemed to be immersed in glowing yellow. I don't know how to describe the sensation except that I felt as if I'd been dropped in a vat of pudding, but in a good way. I didn't feel dead. If anything, I felt blissfully alive. I experienced comforting euphoria and sensed my essence shimmering in the middle of a life force. As I write these words, I'm reminded of string theory, the idea in theoretical physics that the whole universe is made of tiny, distinct strands, closed loops of energy, each string vibrating at its own frequency. Perhaps at that moment I became a closed loop of energy, both part of and distinct from the rest of the universe." End quote. She started to hear her husband call her name from a vast distance. She said that she remembers feeling reluctant and even annoyed that he was calling her name and calling her back. She said that she wanted to stay put, that she didn't want to go back. Though at this point she says that she remembers feeling like she didn't really have a choice. When she came back to her body, she remembers seeing the destruction of her car and looking over and seeing the other driver and then seeing her husband. She remembers that she wasn't in any pain at this time, and it took her a while for her to really acknowledge or remember what had just happened, like the car crash and like the near death or that feeling, you know?
It's kind of it's comforting to know she wasn't feeling any pain, like,
yeah.
And you know, like I don't know, it's nice to think that you can be so effed up physically and still be at peace and not feel that.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with that. She said her next memory of this experience was that a man opened the passenger door and started talking to her. She said that she remembers him very clearly and that he seemed to be in his 40s with curly hair and a receding hairline, and pretty much he looked like he'd be working in an office, like he had office clothes. He said to her, quote, "I'm going to release your seatbelt, but I don't want you to remove unless the engine catches fire. I will stay with you until the ambulance arrives," unquote. And she said that he sat there with her and held her hand until the ambulance arrived and she was strapped into the gurney. Yeah. A while after the crash, her and her husband were comparing notes of the crash, and her husband says that he doesn't remember anybody coming to the scene other than the EMTs. After she heard this, she wanted to track down the EMTs who were there on the scene and see if there were any witnesses to the man that had opened the door for her, but she was never able to find him. Like, there were plenty of witnesses to the scene, you know, and none of the EMTs looked at her, whatever, but nobody had been able to find that man that sat with her.
Wow.
And so, yeah. Like, she had to have 2 years. Oh, 100% we all have guides.
Yeah.
100%. There is no doubt at all.
That's comforting.
Yeah. 100%.
And it makes me wonder, like, then who is it? Because for the one of mine, it was his great-grandfather that he didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it could be family members, friends, you know, people who love you, obviously. They gotta love you.
So is it a blade of grass? Is the blade of grass my guardian?
It could love you. It loves you. It's a blade of grass. But that's my last story. That's it. Told you it was pretty short.
Oh, yes. Okay. What is this? Okay. Sorry. I had to check my camera in one of my girls' rooms. Okay. So, my last story is also it's shown by YouTube user Shaman Oaks. The video is titled 4 Magic Words Got Him Out of Hell, literally, near-death experience in DE. And it is about a man named Howard Storm. I know he has a doctorate. I'm not sure what exactly he has a doctorate in. It could be education because he was a professor, but I mean, as a professor, your doctorate could be in absolutely anything. Like,
yeah, it could be
neuroscience. I don't freaking know. He was a professor, though. Anyways, he said that his faith, to sum up his faith, it would have just been materialism. He thought if you can't measure it or see it or weigh it, it doesn't exist. And he thought prayer was a silly notion. And he actually said that he would rather jump off the Eiffel Tower than pray.
Oh, that's dramatic.
Like, he just thought it was...
But I get his point.
Yeah, it was that silly.
Mm-hmm.
So, when he had a hole in his small intestine, like the very beginning portion of his small intestine, and it was leaking hydrochloric acid and other digestive juices, he didn't pray. His body was literally digesting itself, and he had immense pain. He said it felt like a red hot coal taken out of the fire and placed in his gut, but he did not pray.
That is so terrifying, that amount of pain.
Oh, yeah. He said he did not pray. He did what made sense to him, which was to ask for a doctor and ask for morphine. He was given nothing, no medication. Because he was sent to surgery. He said he was told that he needed immediate surgery, so can't be on a bunch of stuff when you're put under,
Yeah.
So sent to surgery right away, but there was no one there to do the surgery.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And because he was going into surgery, he was not given morphine or any other medications, even though he begged for them. And so but that means that this experience that he had was not drug induced.
Yeah, because he was waiting on a surgeon.
Yes, this story is crazy. Okay, so the nurse came in and told him that there was no doctor available to do the surgery. If he did not get the surgery, he had only an hour to live. So he said his goodbyes to his wife, which was obviously in tears and shaking.
Yeah.
Howard was having a very hard time breathing. He eventually stopped breathing and went unconscious. He woke up standing and feeling completely healed and healthy.
What the heck? Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, keep talking, lady. What happens next?
Well, he's a very sensible man. He has a doctorate, for God's sake, or whatever sake. He did a reality check of himself, is what he called it. He took his hand and he felt himself from his head to his feet. He was feeling good, really good. He did a sensory check on himself. He could hear the humming of the light. His vision was fantastic. It was strange. He was able to see more than 180 degrees.
Okay, like he was an owl a little bit.
But like all at once, he could see more than
all
180 degrees.
Okay.
He turned into an owl, and then he flew to heaven. So then he did a depth of field check on himself. So this is like when you focus on seeing something up close and everything in the background is blurred, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was able to completely focus on everything at the same time. So even if he was focusing on something up close, everything around him was still, like even far away, was still very perfectly focused.
Yeah.
Then he checked his touch. He felt the texture of the linoleum on the soles of his feet. He could feel all the details of it. Then he looked around the room and he saw his wife near the side of the bed. On the bed was a person with their head mostly covered, not completely covered. Then he looked at this person that was standing and facing his wife. So there was somebody else in the room that was standing there and facing his wife. He thought it was very weird because the man that was standing there looking at his wife looked remarkably like himself. He thought this was strange, and it was completely irrational to believe it was himself. He thought about how people can't be in two places at once. He couldn't be standing there and staring at himself while standing somewhere else at the same time. He wondered why this man looked just like him. He was trying to think of a scenario where it would make sense to be seeing someone that looked like himself. He came up with one scenario. He thought this French hospital, because he was in France, they were in France. He's an American man. They're in France, French hospital. He thought this hospital had made a whack replica of himself.
Okay. Because, of course, they would. The French are French.
Right.
Making wax figures.
He's a very rational man. So it's weird that he would even think of this. But I guess, if you're dead, you're probably a little confused.
Yeah.
But then he realizes that this is a crazy thought. The hospital wouldn't have the time or the means to do this. And why would they do such a thing?
Exactly, Mr. Man.
Because Howard is so confused about this, he begins to become angry. He's like, what the F is going on? He starts to try to communicate with his wife, who now has her head down and is crying. Howard gets no response from her, and this is infuriating to him. He said that when he and his wife would argue, and she was mad, she would ignore him. So that's what he thought was she was doing. That she was
Just ignore.
Yeah, he thought that she was just mad at him. So Howard then turned to his roommate in the hospital. So he was sharing a room with somebody. And it was this, I think he said 68-year-old. Anyways, this Frenchman that he said was very sweet and kind while he was there. So he turned to him, but he said that this Frenchman looked through him as if he wasn't even there. And Howard talked to the man, but he got no response. He started screaming and yelling at the man and still got nothing back. He was very, very agitated.
I would be too. Like, that's very confusing.
Especially when you don't know you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Howard then heard people in the hallway calling his name and telling him to come with them. He thought it was strange because they were in France and these people were speaking perfect English, which makes me think that whenever you do go, you hear whatever language you know.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he goes into the hall, but the hallway looks different. So the room was very crisp and clear, whereas the hallway looked like an old black and white movie, like a really bad black and white movie. It was fuzzy and gray.
Mm-hmm.
Howard explains to the people that he is sick and he has been waiting for surgery all day. They said that they knew all about him and who he was, and that they had been waiting for him. After some convincing, Howard thought, yeah, okay, they're here to take me to surgery. He didn't question it at the time, but now he realizes it was strange because they were walking him to surgery rather than rolling him on the bed.
Oh, okay, yep, that would be strange.
Yeah, he says they began walking and went on a long journey. It was a journey to hell.
Oh my gosh, okay. What's the next episode? Play. Yes, I'm still watching Netflix. Leave me alone.
You're freaking great. I love you. He said, there's nothing there. There's no rain, no wind, no butterflies, birds, etc. He said it was like prison. He said it was like prison in that when someone goes to prison, they are somewhat initiated when they arrive. Like, people mess with them in the worst possible ways you can imagine. When Howard arrived in hell, he was the new fresh meat. Hundreds of those in hell. Hundreds. He said hundreds of them had their way with him.
Oh, no.
And he was like in tears during this interview. And this is a very sensible doctor man, like in tears on screen. So like this had some sway with his emotions.
Wait.
Yes, wait. He said the physical part was awful, but the emotional part was much worse. When they were done with him, because he was no longer physically or emotionally responsive. Like he just couldn't even respond physically or emotionally because they had just obliterated him,
Mm-hmm.
Howard heard a voice say to him, "Pray to God." Howard thought, what a stupid idea. I don't know how to pray. I haven't prayed since I was a child. He kept hearing the voice say, "Pray to God," louder and louder. Howard finally began to trying to pray, but he couldn't remember what to say. He thought prayer was something that you had memorized and then you said it. He couldn't remember any prayers. And after numerous tries, like he was like 7 years ago. No, that's not right. And then he would, just things like that, sayings that he had memorized, and he would start saying them. And he's like, no, that's not a prayer. So he's trying to remember. And after numerous tries, he finally remembered a bit and said, "The Lord is my shepherd." And he was so excited that he had remembered some type of prayer, some bit of prayer, that he had said this out loud. But because he said it out loud, all of those quote-unquote inmates of hell that had finally left him alone heard what he said. And he said that they became very angry and said in some weird language that he had never heard before, in the worst sounding language that he had ever heard, which I guess he just understood because maybe you understand every language then? I don't know. But he said in this weird, horrible language, they had said, "There is no God. No one can hear you. Now we are really going to hurt you," as if they were about to hurt him worse than they already had. Howard begins to remember more bits of the prayer. He began to shout the prayer he was able to remember. As he shouts it and repeats it over and over, the inmates are driven back away from Howard. He finally is alone, and all he hears is himself saying these bits of prayer, which makes me think, because I don't believe any religion in this world is 100% accurate.
Yeah, like it's a nice combination of all there.
Right.
Something's right in this, something's right in that.
I mean, all of them are written by man, and if they're written by man, you can't completely trust them because they're not written by the creator or whatever the fuck is out there. Anyways, I believe every religion in this world has some truth to it. And they're all talking about the same thing, just in different ways, whether they realize it or not. And,
different ways, different names.
Right. And they've picked and chosen certain parts to believe and pass along. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying these prayers, the Christian prayers, and yeah, they are driving these things away. But what if he was, from India or wherever, and he was saying prayers that they would be saying in those religions?
I think it's more like the intent behind the prayer. So maybe it wasn't like, oh, you have to pray, use these exact like Christian prayers and you'll be saved. I think it was like the intent and the energy behind what those prayers meant like the banishment of evil or the welcomeness of, love and light and everything.
I think that's exactly right. I believe whatever the if anything is out there and is a higher power, I don't think it matters that you do these very specific things every hour of every day or very specific prayers. I think it matters what's in your heart and how you treat people and what your intent is in the words that you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I didn't want people to be like, oh, he's saying Christian prayers and they're driving this thing away. That can't be true. I just think the intention is there. Doesn't matter what was said. These inmates were driven away from him. So Howard is finally alone. All of those inmates are gone, and all he hears is himself repeating these bits of prayer that he remembered. He didn't remember the entire prayer. It's bits. Well, Howard realizes that he is stuck where he is at. He can't move. He can't crawl. He's physically unable to move or crawl. Even if he could, he wouldn't know where to go. He doesn't know where he's at. He only knew he wasn't alive or in the physical world. Well, where Howard grew up in Massachusetts, because you always go back to, your personal experiences to try and make connections and figure shit out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he's doing. Where he grew up in Massachusetts, there were septic tanks and cesspools, which people still have today, usually like out in the country. He had come up with the idea that he had gone, this sounds ridiculous, but I mean, if you are in his position, you might be this crazy too. So he had thought that he had actually gone through the toilet, through the plumbing, and into a cesspool. And that's why he was like in, under the earth and alone. And he knew his life was filth, garbage. He knew he was a selfish ass, his word. He was a professor that was admired, and he only cared about his ego. He began to think of his life and gave himself a grade. Because he's a professor, he decided to grade himself in each area of his life. He ended up, I don't know how they grade in other countries, but all these grades that he gave himself were not good. He gave himself F and D's in every area of his life. He was a failure, and he began to feel bad. In all of his relationships, every area of his life, he was a failure. He realized he belonged where he was and that he was stuck there. He thought the only way to have any kind of existence in that place was to pull himself together and become more vicious than those that were there around him. So he knew he couldn't count on his insincere prayers to help him there forever. He went into the deepest despair. He was emotionally and spiritually sinking into a deeper hole. He thought about how, as a boy, he believed in God as like a superhero. He prayed to him when he was scared, and the scary things would go away. Then Howard would think that it was dumb that he used to believe in that. Then he thought that even if he did begin to believe it, it wouldn't matter. All he's done as an adult is use God's name with curse words. God would hate him. And I think you talked about this with one of yours. Like, they just felt like they didn't deserve to be there. Like, everything they had done was bad. But his mind whirled with these thoughts until he was screaming at himself. Like, all he could think about was, like, I believed this when I was a kid, but no, it was stupid that I believed that, but maybe I can believe that now, but I can't, because all I've done is curse God's name all my life. God's gonna hate me. Like, he just kept going in circles, and all these thoughts were whirling around until he was screaming at himself to stop. And he said, these are the 4 words that supposedly pulled him out of hell. And it was, Jesus, please save me. An impossibly bright light shone upon him. He looked down at himself and just saw gore. Gore from when the inmates had their way with him. He said his body had been eviscerated, like he was just ripped to shreds. He looked back to the light. Hands came out of the overwhelmingly bright and beautiful light. When the hands touched him, his body became whole. His physical pain went away, and he was filled with ecstasy. He was filled with great love. Howard was picked up by this figure, and this figure held him tight. Howard could feel that this figure loved him. Howard felt that as if he was this figure's most Howard felt as if he was this figure's most favorite person in the universe. And it's funny because in the interview he says, and unfortunately, all of you are his most favorite person in the universe. But he felt love and he felt liked, which is different, like you can love somebody, it doesn't mean you like them.
Oh yeah.
But he felt this, and this figure, what to him was Jesus. Jesus and Howard took off, flying through the sky together. Howard is crying, bawling, and he feels bad. He feels so bad because he's covering Jesus in his tears and his snot.
Well, he was just covered in gore and grime, so this probably is not that bad comparatively.
Yeah, true. Howard realizes as they were flying through the galaxy, they are flying into God's territory. Howard becomes scared of how God will feel. He thinks God will hate him. He thinks to himself that there has been a mistake and he doesn't belong there with God. Jesus and Howard come to an immediate stop outside of heaven. Jesus telepathically, which is crazy because you talked about that earlier in your stories that communication was done telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
But
without words, but with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus telepathically tells Howard that they do not make mistakes and that Howard does belong there. Howard asks Jesus how he knew what he was thinking. Jesus laughed and said he knew everything Howard has ever thought. This made Howard uncomfortable. He didn't want all of his bad thoughts to be known. Okay, this part's great. He was ashamed of the thoughts Jesus must have known about, and Howard then thought of a breast.
Hey, there ain't nothing sinful about a breast. That's not a bad thought.
No. Howard was embarrassed to have thought of a breast, but Jesus just laughed and laughed. Howard thought, oh, he thinks I'm funny. And Jesus said, yeah, you're really funny. Howard was shocked to think Jesus thought he was funny when nobody ever found him to be funny. Jesus and Howard fell into a telepathic conversation, and Jesus said he had people he wanted Howard to meet. So Jesus called out with a musical tone, and a group of people formed a circle around them. They had a recording of Howard's life. They all watched Howard's life in a holographic projection. He saw the interactions he had with people. He saw it as prop. Have you ever seen the Disney movie Soul, where Jamie Foxx plays the main character Joe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, in that movie, there's a time when Joe sees his life. He's shown his entire life, but when he's shown it, it's like he's in a big room full of memories, but each memory is like a prop with no background.
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain it any other way, but that's how Howard saw his life in these images, which makes me like want to question the writer of Soul and be like, dude, bro, do you have a near-death experience? But so Howard saw the interactions he had with people. He also was able to see and feel how those interactions affect people. Howard could feel that this group and Jesus were disappointed in the direction Howard's life was going. He said it wasn't like a mean way. They were just like, oh, Howard had the marriage, the money, the nice cars, the house, the career. He achieved tenure in his professorship, blah, blah, blah. Jesus let Howard know that none of that mattered at all. It meant absolutely nothing. What mattered was how he treated others, like when he ignored a student that had desperately needed a friend. Jesus asked Howard if he had any questions. Of course, Howard had a ton of questions. He said Jesus answered every single one. Howard has shared some of these with people, but he won't share them all. When he has shared some of these answers he received with other people, he's been demonized by others. He's even been called the devil. For example, he asked about babies, and he found that when babies are aborted, stillborn, or die when they are still young, Howard says he was told that these babies just get another chance at life.
Yeah, that sounds like something, yeah.
But when he shares that with some people, they become very angry. I guess maybe the abortion part of it?
Maybe, yeah.
People sometimes get angry when he shares that Jesus and he visited different places, and Howard was shown that the universe is filled with various life forms, i.e. aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and our world is actually one of the lowest life forms of them all. I knew that.
Doesn't surprise me. We're here to learn for a reason, guys.
Yes. There are a lot more spiritual, kind, and loving beings throughout the universe. It's good to know that aliens are spiritual, kind, and loving.
Yeah, in case we ever run into them.
When Howard finished asking questions, he told Jesus he was ready to go to heaven. Jesus told him he wasn't going to heaven, but that he was going back to his life. Howard actually got into a big argument with Jesus, and he was saying, like, some people were like, you argued with Jesus? And he was like, yeah. He asked why he would be sent back to a world full of cruelty and hardship. Jesus told him it was also filled with love. He told Howard that, and this is one of the parts I was saying matched one of your stories. He told Howard that if you have love in your heart, you will see the love in others. Whatever is in you is what you will find in the world. If you seek love and beauty, you find love and beauty. If you seek cruelty and ugliness, you find cruelty and ugliness. Love and beauty is in everyone, even those you would not think would have it. When Howard had gone back to his body, he was recovering in the recovery ward,
Mm-hmm.
The room was very dark. It was in the daytime, but the lights were off. The room was dark. The curtains were probably drawn, shades, whatever. Then, suddenly, the room just lit up. and a beautiful man in scrubs and tennis shoes came into the room. Again, this hospital was in France, but this man spoke to Howard in perfect English. He told Howard he was going to be watching over him, that everything was going to be okay, but that Howard had a long recovery ahead of him. He told Howard he would always be around. Howard asked for his name. The man told him not to worry about that. Howard would never see him again. Howard said that he didn't understand. He would never see him again, but he was going to always be around?
Yeah.
The man said yes. He would never see him again, but he would always be there. The man...
It's like, think about it, Howard.
Right? Knock, knock. Howard. The man then left. And the room, when he left, the room went dark. Like, it wasn't the light of the room going on and off. It was just the room brightening and darkening. Well, a nurse, right as he was leaving, a nurse came in. Howard asked what the name of the doctor was, the doctor that had just left his room. The nurse said nobody was there. Howard explained what this person looked like, and the nurse said there was no one in the room. Howard said, "You just passed by him as you came in the room." She said there was no one. Her desk was just outside his room, and she had been there for a long time, and she said no one had gone in or out of his room the entire time. He said that she even got very frustrated and angry with him. So nobody had gone in or out. But this person, this man, had told him, "You will never see me again, but I will always be watching out for you."
Like, and there's his guardian. Or I guess he would call it Jesus.
Yeah. And I know you have no more stories, and that's the end of that story. But, so when Miranda and I record, the recording program that we use will only let us record so long before it cuts us off, but it doesn't warn us that it cuts us off. This has happened 1 or 2 times before. We've had to re-record because of it. Anyways, it's a hot mess. But I noticed we were getting close to the 2-hour mark. So I had cut it off and we started a new recording. I'm just going to paste them together. Anyways, while I was waiting for the first one to upload before we started the second one, I found a post on my Facebook, and it is from one of the most beautiful women inside and out that I know. It is the mother of one of my past students, and she had posted something that was awesome, and it somehow related to what we're talking about tonight. So I'm gonna read this little part of this post. She had been explaining something to her boyfriend, and he had said something to her that fits our stories perfectly. A lot of our stories, these people came to realize and were told that the most important thing is to find your true self. So she had posted, "One time early on in our relationship, I was explaining some things to," I won't say his name, but her boyfriend. "And he stopped me and said, quote, 'So they took everything that made you feel good about yourself and told you it wasn't attractive, so you would stop wearing it or doing it in order to keep you from feeling good about yourself.'" And I thought that was very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The things that people say to you, whether it be through jealousy or fear or whatever else is going on in their lives that make them insecure or angry or whatever emotion they're feeling, that they feel the need to make somebody else feel bad about themselves, to make them feel unattractive, or to stop being who they truly are. But as we've learned through these stories, whether these stories are something that their brains came up with or whether they are actual events, they all seem to share the same knowledge, and that is, it's very important to be your true, authentic self. And if you don't know who or what that is, you need to find it. And
fill your mind. And fill your mind with positivity.
Yes, exactly. And it involves being positive, not dwelling on the negative of other people, that the negativity that people gives you. It involves being loving and caring to other people so that you can love yourself. Just be you and be proud of it.
Yeah, and don't try to change yourself, it's really easy to say, but change yourself because you don't think you're worthy.
Right. And it's one of the most difficult things, especially if you're in like a toxic relationship, whether that be a romantic relationship or like a relationship with a family member or a friendship relationship or whatever kind of relationship. If somebody's being toxic, get away from them. Cut them out of your life. And if you're literally unable to cut them out of your life, do everything you can to hold on to who you truly are.
It matters what you think of you and what those that are closest to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like even the people that are closest to you, if they are not thinking that you're 100% amazing, they shouldn't be closest to you.
Then they're not worth your time or even your thought or anything, your energy.
My husband always is like lifting me up no matter what. When I'm feeling down my husband has never said like a negative word to me about me, you know, nothing ever.
It doesn't matter who or what you feel like you are. If you are not hurting somebody else, then it doesn't matter. And I don't mean not hurting somebody by them being like a mom being like, oh, you're gay. And I'm hurting my mom, so I can't be gay. No, she's hurting you by not being accepting.
Exactly.
I mean, like, if you are not physically or emotionally,
psychologically,
purposefully hurting somebody, then do and be you. Do you, boo.
Exactly. Do you, boo. That's the main message for this.
Yes.
Love yourself.
Anyway,
all right,
if you feel unloved or unwanted for any reason, email us or message us on Facebook and we can talk you fucking through it because we love who you are.
We'll hype you up.
We love you, boo.
We'll hype you up. Be your biggest hype, men, women, people.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. We really enjoyed this one immensely.
Yes, it was a great one.
Yeah, and if any of you guys have your own near-death experiences, please send it in. Let us know about it.
Hell, any kind of story.
Yeah, any kind of story. You can send it to our Facebook or email us at witchinandwinin@gmail.com. That's WITCHN
ANDWINEN at gmail.com.
We look forward to hearing your stories.
Yes. And I don't even know if we mentioned this on here. I don't think we did. Y'all, we just started this to stay connected because we're BFFs and we lived nearest each other and we worked together and then now we live very far apart. So we started this just to stay connected, but we have gone over 1,000 downloads.
Yay! Thank you, everyone.
And
that's
downloads.
News.
That's not people that have listened. I don't know what that number is. But
I mean, it's crazy to think that people are listening to us chatter. You know?
Right? Chitter, chit, chat. But these are people that actually hit the download button and download it, you know, so they can listen offline. Anyways, so there's got to be more than that actually listen to it. But
right, yes.
We have like
make yourself known.
I think the last time I checked, it was like 1,034 downloads or something like that. And it's all over the freaking world, y'all. I'm talking like Germany, Japan, I don't know, Norway, all kinds of places, y'all.
Oh, thank you guys so much for listening.
It freaking warms my heart. And
yeah. Like we said, we're just a couple friends trying to stay connected. I love Christal dearly, dearly, dearly. I cried for like 2 months after she moved. It was a heartbreak, I swear.
God,
it really was. I know, I miss you. Anyway.
I want to visit you and pet your pigeons. I want to pet
probably
your
asleep
pigeons.
by now. Yes, but you could definitely cuddle a pigeon.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
All right, I hope everyone has a great night. Touch all the buttons. Give us a comment. And we'll see you next week. Yes, touch the buttons.
Touch our buttons. Okay, yeah, these 2 glasses of wine have got me.
They have.
Touch the buttons.
Oh, good.
All right.
Sayonara, guys.
Have a great day or night, whatever the hell it is.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Touch the buttons.
Touch the buttons. Just love yourself. Touch the buttons. Love yourself.
That was super duper weird.